October 4th, 2017. 12 elite American soldiers known as the Green Berets were preparing for what they believed would be a routine reconnaissance mission. These men were part of Operation Detachment Alpha 3212, tasked with working alongside Nigerian forces to combat the growing threat of ISIS in the Greater Sahara, a region that had become a breeding ground for militants. The mission was crucial for gathering intelligence on enemy movements and disrupting their operations before they could strike. By day's end, 4 of these brave soldiers would find themselves fighting for their lives, desperately attempting to escape as the relentless enemies were closing in around them. This is the story about the Tongo Tongo incident. Leading the team was Captain Michael Perezzini, a seasoned officer driven by a deep sense of duty. Among the group were Staff Sergeants Brian Black, Jeremiah Johnson, and Dustin Wright, all highly skilled soldiers dedicated to the mission. They were also joined by Sergeant David Johnson, a young soldier that had a promising future. Supporting these Green Berets were also 30 Nigerian soldiers, all men familiar with the land, fully aware of the dangers that lay ahead. The mission was to be a simple one: travel to the village at Tioloa, gather intelligence, and return to base. But as a convoy of vehicles moved through the rugged terrain, there was a sense of unease that hung in the air. The team had been given conflicting information about the threat level in the area, and the lack of clear communications from the higher command only added to the tension. Yet, they pressed on, trusting in their training and in each other. The convoy reached the village at Tioloa without incident. The team spent the night there, interacting with the villagers and gathering the necessary intelligence. By dawn, they were on the move again, heading towards the village at Tongo Tongo, where they were to meet with the local leaders for further information. The road to Tongo Tongo was long and dusty, cutting through the desolate landscape like a scar. As the convoy approached the village, the soldiers noticed something unusual. The villagers seemed nervous, their eyes darting towards the horizon, as if they knew something the soldiers did not. The team proceeded cautiously, but with each passing minute, a sense of dread grew. Suddenly, gunfire erupted from the surrounding bushes. It was an ambush, meticulously planned and ruthlessly executed. The attackers, estimated to be more than 50 strong, were heavily armed and well coordinated. They were ISIS GS militants who had been lying in wait, ready to spring their trap. The soldiers did what they were trained to do. They fought back. They tried to find cover, return fire, and protect each other, but the situation was dire. The convoy was trapped, with enemies closing in from all sides. The militants were well armed and ruthless, and it quickly became clear that the soldiers were outnumbered and outgunned. In the heat of the battle, Staff Sergeant Brian Black, Jeremiah Johnson, and Dustin Wright were caught in a deadly crossfire. They were out in the open with little cover, trying to fend off the attackers. These men showed incredible bravery, fighting to protect not just themselves, but each other. At one point, Wright got into a vehicle and began driving slowly, providing cover for his comrades. Black and Jeremiah Johnson ran alongside, firing at the enemy, but as they tried to escape, Black was hit by enemy fire. Jeremiah Johnson tried to help him, but the situation was becoming increasingly desperate. Wright, realizing that his fellow soldiers were in grave danger, made a courageous decision. He stopped the vehicle and ran back to help. It was a selfless act, one that would cost him his life. As the militants closed in, Wright and Jeremiah Johnson were both shot multiple times at close range. They fought with everything they had until the very end, refusing to give up even when the odds were stacked against them. Meanwhile, Sergeant David Johnson had become separated from the rest of the team. Under heavy fire, he tried to make it back to his vehicle, but the enemy was relentless. With no other option, David took off on foot. Sprinting through the desert, in a desperate attempt to evade capture. David found a small tree, his only cover in the vast and open landscape. He hid there alone and continued to fight the militants as they closed in on his position, but he was heavily outnumbered and eventually would be found by the enemy. Even in his final moments, David Johnson fought bravely, defending himself until he would be tragically killed by the enemy. His body was found nearly a mile away from the ambush site, a heartbreaking reminder of just how far he had to run in his attempt to survive. The devastating ambush sparked a wave of questions back home. Why were these soldiers in Niger? Were they properly prepared for the mission? And how could such a tragedy happen? This led to an investigation by the US Department of Defense, which did in fact find that the team was not fully prepared for the mission they were sent on. There were flaws in the planning, and the soldiers were put in a situation that was far more dangerous than anyone had anticipated. The Tongo Tongo incident was a tragic and harrowing event that highlighted the dangers faced by soldiers in one of the most volatile regions in the world. The bravery and sacrifice of the men of ODA 3212 became a symbol of the selflessness and courage that defines those who serve. If you guys enjoy this kind of content and want to see more of it, hit that subscribe button, and if you have any operations or events you want me to cover, drop it in the comments, and I'll see you guys in the next.